The night was silent. The ruins of the old human colony stood broken, metal walls twisted by time and war. Smoke still drifted in the air, though the battle had ended long ago. And in the middle of this quiet wasteland, a small figure moved slowly, her steps unsteady, her hands stretched forward to feel the walls. She was not human. Her skin held a faint silver tone. Her hair shimmered like glass threads under the pale moon, and her eyes, though open, did not see. She was blind, yet she walked as if guided by something deeper, and this made her different even among her own kind. Because her people did not help the weak, they abandoned them. They believed only the strong deserved to live, and so this young alien girl had been left alone in the shadows of the colony. From the corner of a collapsed shelter, a man watched her. He was human, his face covered in dirt, his clothes marked with burns from old machines, his hands shaking as he clutched a small device. He had seen her before, wandering the ruins, searching for scraps of food, bumping into walls, never crying, never calling for help, and something inside him could not look away. He was an engineer, once part of a human research team, but now alone, forgotten by both humans and aliens, and yet he still had tools, scraps, and ideas that never left his mind, ideas about light, sound, and vision. He looked at the girl and whispered to himself, "If they will not help her, then I will." The next day, while the sun cast long shadows over the ruins, the man worked. He pulled wires from broken drones. He melted glass from shattered windows. He shaped a frame with his rough hands. Piece by piece, he built something small but powerful. A visor, not a perfect one, but a prototype, one that could translate energy into glowing outlines, a way for the blind to see shapes in the dark. Hours passed. His hands bled. His eyes stung from the sparks. But at last the prototype was ready. It looked fragile, silver wires wrapping around black lenses, a thin strap of leather to hold it to the head. He held it gently, as if it were treasure, and he thought of the girl again. That night, he found her in the same place, sitting against a wall, her knees pulled to her chest, her face turned up to the stars she could not see. He approached slowly, careful not to frighten her, and when she heard his steps she tensed, her hand reaching for a stone on the ground. But his voice was calm, soft. "I am not here to hurt you." She tilted her head, her blank eyes staring in his direction. "Then why do you follow me, human?" Her voice was quiet, almost broken. He knelt down and placed the visor beside her. "Because you deserve more than darkness, I made this for you." Her fingers touched the strange object, tracing the wires and glass. Confusion filled her face. "What is it?" "A gift," he said. "It may let you see, not like others do, but in a new way, with light." For a long moment she did not move. Fear and hope battled inside her. No one had ever given her anything. No one had ever believed she was worth saving. Her people called her useless, weak, a burden. But this human, this stranger, had built something with his own hands for her. She slowly lifted the visor, hesitating, her fingers trembling. "If this is a trick," she whispered. "It is not," he answered, steady and firm. "Try it, and if it fails, you lose nothing. But if it works, you gain the world." She placed the visor over her head, the strap tight against her silver hair, the lenses covering her blind eyes, and for a heartbeat nothing happened. She gasped, ready to pull it off. But then, faint lines appeared in her mind, glowing outlines of the wall in front of her, a stone lying by her feet. The human kneeling close, she saw shapes, blurry yet bright like fire in the dark. Her breath caught. Tears filled her eyes, though she had never known why others cried. "I can see," she whispered, her voice shaking, her hands reaching out to touch the glowing forms around her. "I can see something." The human smiled, relief washing over him. His hard work had not failed. Not perfect vision, but enough to guide you, enough to give you freedom. The girl laughed, a sound of pure joy breaking the silence of the ruins. She spun slowly, her hands brushing against walls, her feet finding the ground with confidence she never had before. And for the first time in her life, she did not feel weak. But in the shadows, unseen by them both, a red light blinked, hidden inside a broken machine recording everything, sending signals far beyond the ruins. Someone was watching. Someone had seen the human's gift, and soon, others would come. The girl turned to him, her eyes glowing behind the visor. "Why would you help me, when even my own people would not?" The man looked at her, his face serious. "Because mercy is not weakness, because every life deserves a chance to see the light." And as the wind howled through the broken metal towers, the unseen signal carried their secret into the stars, a secret that would not stay hidden for long. The visor rested gently on her face, the wires glowing faintly as if alive. The girl stood frozen, her fingers brushing the cold wall, her breath caught in her throat, and in that single moment the world she had never known began to open. At first it was only outlines, pale lines drawn in fire across the air, the edges of stones, the shape of the man kneeling before her, his tired face lit with hope. But for her it was more than light, it was freedom. For the first time she knew where she was standing. She knew how far the wall stretched. She knew the ground would hold her step, and she laughed, a small laugh at first, then a brighter one, like music carried on the wind. The human smiled as he watched her, his heart heavy but proud. He had seen many machines in his life, but none had made him feel this way. This was not just invention. It was salvation for a soul that had been abandoned. He whispered to himself, "She sees." The girl turned in circles, lifting her hands to follow the glowing edges, touching each stone as if to test whether the vision was true, and every touch made her laugh again. Her silver hair swayed with her movements, her blind eyes hidden beneath the visor, yet her spirit shone brighter than the moon. She paused and faced him, her voice trembling. "You gave me this when no one else would. Not even my people, why?" He looked at her for a long moment, the firelight of a broken tower flickering across his face. "Because I could not watch you suffer. Because no one deserves to walk only in darkness. Not human, not alien." Her lips pressed tight as if she could not understand such kindness. Her people told her mercy was weakness, kindness was a lie, survival was all that mattered. Yet this man, a stranger, had proven them wrong with his hands, with his work, with his heart. For hours she walked, learning to trust her new vision, stumbling at first but growing stronger. She followed the outlines of ruined corridors, traced the shapes of doors she never dared to enter before. She reached for the stars above, though they were still only glowing dots in her visor, and each step she took made her feel less like a burden, more like someone alive. But the human knew joy could not last. His eyes drifted often to the broken drone half buried in dust, its single red eye flickering faintly before it died. He knew enough about old machines to fear that signal. Someone had seen, someone had heard. And though the girl laughed, his mind grew heavy with worry. He tried to stay calm. He guided her back to the small shelter he had built from scraps. Inside the walls hummed with quiet generators, and he gave her food, simple rations but enough to fill her. She ate with a smile, saying every bite tasted brighter now that she could see the shape of her own hands holding it. Later that night, as the wind howled outside, she sat close to him, her visor still glowing. "Do you know what it feels like to be left behind by your own people?" she whispered. He nodded slowly, his voice low. "Yes, I know too well. Humans abandoned me too. When the war ended, they left. I stayed, because I could not forgive what I saw, and because I thought maybe my hands could build something good in this broken world." She tilted her head. "And you built this for me?" "Yes," he answered simply. "Because even one life saved is worth more than machines left to rust." The girl touched the visor gently, afraid to break it. "What if they come for you? What if they see this as crime?" The human's jaw tightened. "Then I will face them. I will not take back what I gave. Not from you." Outside, the ruins stretched endless and dark. But within the small shelter there was warmth. The girl fell asleep at last, her head resting against the wall, her hands curled around the visor as if afraid it might vanish in her dreams. And the human sat awake, watching, listening to the wind, his heart torn between pride and fear. Hours later, when the night was deepest, the silence broke. A faint hum drifted across the ruins, steady and sharp. The sound of engines distant but growing nearer. The man's eyes narrowed, his breath stilled. He rose and walked outside, staring at the horizon. There, beyond the broken towers, lights cut through the darkness, not human lights, but alien, sharp and green, moving in formation, descending slowly as if the night itself opened to let them through. He knew at once these were not wanderers or traders. They were soldiers, and they were coming straight for him. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of what he had done. The visor had brought joy to one life, but also danger from many. He turned back to the shelter, watching the girl sleep peacefully, unaware of the storm approaching, and he whispered to himself, "I will protect her, no matter what." The wind carried the hum of the ships closer. The ruins trembled as dust fell from old walls, and in that moment the human knew the gift he gave had been seen by eyes that would not forgive, eyes that feared change, eyes that would arrive soon, and when they did, the quiet world he built would be torn apart. The morning came slowly, the ruins glowing under the pale sun, dust drifting in the air like golden mist, and inside the small shelter the girl opened her eyes, her visor still humming softly against her skin. Her heart beat fast as she remembered the night before. She could see not like others, but enough to feel alive, enough to believe she was more than a shadow. She stood, tracing the outlines of the broken machines around her. Each shape glowing in her vision, she whispered to herself, "I can see," again and again, as if saying it would make it stay forever. Then she turned and found the human still awake, sitting near the doorway, his eyes sharp, his face heavy with worry. "You did not sleep," she said quietly, her voice a mix of concern and guilt. He shook his head. "I heard something last night, ships, alien engines. They were close, too close, but they passed. For now," her chest tightened, "they will come, won't they?" He did not answer at once, only stared at the horizon. When a secret like this is born, it does not stay hidden. Word will spread even faster than fire. And he was right, for beyond the ruins, voices already whispered. The markets in the alien cities spoke of a strange gift, of a blind girl who now walked with new sight, of a human engineer who dared to shape her future. The story twisted as it spread. Some called it a miracle, some called it forbidden science, and others called it a threat to their way of life. The girl did not know this. She only wanted to explore, to test her new freedom. She begged the human to take her outside the ruins, to show her the rivers and the hills she had only felt with her hands, and though his heart warned against it, he could not deny her. So he led her carefully, staying always alert, always watching the skies. They walked through the broken colony gates, weeds pushing up through metal cracks, and beyond stretched fields once burned by war but now growing wild again. The girl gasped as her visor traced the glowing shapes of trees, their tall trunks rising high, their branches moving like shadows against the light. She laughed and touched their bark, rough and real, and she cried as she whispered, "So this is what a tree looks like." The human watched her, torn between joy and dread. Every smile she gave was a flame in the darkness, but every flame drew eyes, and already he felt the weight of those eyes pressing down on him. By nightfall they returned to the ruins, and there, hidden in the shadows, strangers waited, not soldiers, not enemies, but wanderers and traders. They had heard whispers, and they came to see if the tale was true. They saw the girl walking, her visor glowing faintly, and their gasps carried through the night like sparks. One trader muttered, "If this is real, then others like her can be saved." Another hissed, "Or cursed. If the elders learn of this, they will call it corruption." The human stepped forward, his hand protective, his voice cold. "Leave us. This is not for you," but it was too late. The sight of the girl burned into their memories. They would carry the story farther, across cities, across planets, across systems, and with every retelling the danger grew later. When the strangers were gone, the girl faced him, her glowing outlines of eyes wide with worry. "Why are you afraid? They only saw the truth." "That kindness is stronger than fear." He sighed deeply, his shoulders heavy. "Kindness is strong, yes, but power hates kindness. It sees it as weakness, and those who rule your people will not forgive this. They will send more than traitors, more than wanderers. They will send soldiers." Her heart sank, but she stood firm. "Then let them come. I am not afraid anymore, not with this gift." He looked at her, torn between pride and sorrow. You are brave. But bravery is not enough against those who fear change. They will not just come for you. They will come for me, for the visor, for the idea itself. That night the wind carried whispers, real and imagined, voices that told of eyes watching from the skies. And as the girl slept with the visor beside her, the human sat awake again, staring at the stars, each one a reminder that word traveled faster than he could run. Far away, in the halls of the alien elite, the rumors reached ears that mattered. Commanders of fleets, leaders of cities, priests of the old ways, they all argued. Some demanded the human be captured. Others demanded he be killed before his ideas spread, and a few, a dangerous few, asked the question none dared. What if the human is right? What if weakness can be turned into strength? The council broke in anger, their voices shaking the halls, but in the end they agreed on one thing. The human could not be left alone. A team would be sent, not wanderers, not scouts, but soldiers, elite and merciless, to seize him and, if needed, to silence him forever. Back in the ruins, the girl stirred in her sleep, her dreams filled with new visions of rivers and stars. She smiled even in slumber, unaware of the storm gathering beyond. But the human did not smile. He felt the weight of silence pressing on his chest, for he knew the truth. The gift he gave was no longer theirs alone. It belonged to the galaxy now, and the galaxy was coming to claim it. The sky was quiet at first, pale clouds drifting above the ruins. The girl stood near the old gates with her visor glowing faintly, tracing the shapes of broken towers with her hands, her laughter soft as she discovered corners she had never dared to explore before. And for a while it seemed the world belonged only to her and the human who watched from the shadows. But then the air changed. A low hum rolled across the horizon, steady and sharp, the kind of sound that made the ground tremble and the birds vanish into the trees. The human froze, his breath caught in his chest, for he knew that sound, the engines of war, the mark of soldiers. The girl turned, her head tilting, her blank eyes hidden beneath the visor. "What is that?" she whispered. The human did not answer at once, his gaze fixed on the sky, where dark shapes pierced through the clouds. 4 ships descending in perfect formation, their hulls carved with alien symbols. Glowing with sharp green light, they were not traders, not wanderers, they were hunters, and they were coming straight for them. The ships landed outside the ruins, dust and smoke rising as their engines cut, and from the hatches stepped figures unlike any she had ever seen, tall and armored, their faces hidden by masks of steel, their movements precise, each one carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. 4 soldiers, elite and merciless, their boots shaking the ground with every step. The girl gasped, fear flashing through her voice. "They are here for you." The human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and calm though his heart raced. "Stay behind me." No matter what happens, the soldiers entered the ruins, their eyes glowing faintly through their masks. They did not wander. They did not hesitate. They moved as if they already knew where to find him, and soon they stood before the broken shelter, 4 against 1, their leader stepping forward, his armor marked with a red crest, his voice sharp and cold. "Human," he said, the word like a weapon. "You will come with us." The girl stepped forward despite her fear, her visor shining. "He did nothing wrong. He only gave me sight." The leader's head tilted, his mask reflecting her glowing eyes. "You speak of the visor, the gift that should not exist, the tool that breaks the laws of our people. No alien should live with weakness. No alien should be saved from it, yet here you stand. Proof of his crime." The human clenched his fists, his voice steady. "If helping someone see is a crime, then your laws are blind." The soldiers raised their weapons, their humming blades filling the air with menace. The girl cried out, "No, please," but they ignored her, their leader pointing at the human. "You will surrender your device, your tools, your knowledge, or you will be taken by force." For a moment silence held them. The human's mind raced. He could not fight 4 trained soldiers, yet he could not abandon the girl. He stepped back slowly, shielding her with his body, his voice calm but sharp. "If you want me, then leave her out of this. She has suffered enough." The leader did not move, but one of the soldiers behind him shifted, his voice quieter, uncertain. "Commander, she sees, and yet she stands strong. Is that truly weakness?" The leader snapped his head toward him, his voice harsh. "Silence, we do not question. We obey." The girl's visor glowed brighter as she stepped beside the human, her hands trembling but her voice firm. "I will not let you take him. He gave me a chance to live. Something none of you ever would if you call that weakness. Then I call it strength. The soldiers hesitated, the weight of her words cutting through the silence. Even their leader paused for a breath, but his mask turned cold again. Enough. Take the human. They moved forward, their boots crushing the stones, weapons raised. The human pulled the girl back, his eyes searching desperately for a way out. The ruins offered no shelter, no escape, but his mind whispered, "Stall them. Stall until a chance comes." He lifted his hand slowly, showing no weapon, his voice sharp. "You claim strength, yet you fear what one small visor can do. You fear mercy. You fear kindness, because you know mercy is stronger than your laws." The words struck deeper than any blade, for even soldiers bred to obey felt a crack in their armor. One lowered his weapon slightly, his voice uneasy. "He speaks truth, Commander. We are four, yet we tremble at the gift he gave to one child." The leader roared, "Hold your tongue," and raised his blade higher, but in his heart even he felt the tremor, the shadow of doubt that no training could erase. The girl stepped forward again, her visor glowing brighter as if fueled by her spirit. "I was blind. You left me to die, but he gave me sight, and with sight comes voice, and with voice comes choice, and I choose to live." The ruins trembled not from engines now, but from the weight of her words. The soldiers stood frozen, the human's breath caught, and the leader's blade hovered in the air, unwilling to strike yet unwilling to lower, and in that fragile silence the world held its breath. The ruins were silent. Broken towers stood like old bones under the pale sky. Dust swirled in the air as the four soldiers surrounded the human and the alien girl, their weapons glowing faintly, their leader's red crest burning like fire on his dark armor. The girl clutched her visor, trembling but refusing to step back, and the human stood tall, though he knew death could fall on him in a breath. The leader's voice cut through the air like a blade. "You have broken our law, human. You have interfered with what should remain untouched. Weakness is not to be healed. Weakness is to be erased, for only the strong survive." The human's jaw tightened, his eyes hard. "If survival means leaving children to die in the dark, then your strength is nothing but cruelty." The girl stepped forward, her visor glowing brighter as it caught the sun. "He saved me. When all of you turned away, he gave me sight not for power, not for gain, but because mercy lives in him, something your laws will never understand." The soldiers shifted, their heavy boots scraping against the stone. Two held their weapons steady, but one hesitated, his voice low, unsure. "Commander, she stands strong now, stronger than before. Is this not proof that the weak can rise?" The leader snapped around, his voice sharp with anger. "Do not be fooled by words. Strength is born through pain, not through gifts." The human raised his hands slowly, not in surrender but in defiance. "You fear what I made, because you know mercy is more powerful than your blades. Mercy grows, it spreads, it changes hearts, and no weapon can silence it forever." The soldiers stiffened. Silence hung heavy. The ruins themselves seemed to listen. The girl's breath quickened as she reached for the human's arm, whispering, "They will not listen, they will take you. They will destroy what you built." The leader lifted his blade, its hum filling the air, then let him be taken, his visor destroyed, and his name forgotten. In that moment, the human made his choice. He stepped forward, shielding the girl with his body, his voice steady. "If you want me, then strike me, but know this. The idea is already alive. You can kill me, but you cannot kill what I gave her. You cannot kill what she now carries in her spirit." The girl cried out, her voice fierce, "No, you will not take him. Not while I stand." Her visor flared, the lines of light shining so bright they cast glowing reflections across the soldier's armor. The outlines of ruins painted themselves across the air, as if the world itself was alive with her vision. The soldiers stepped back in surprise, for they had never seen such brilliance from a blind child. One of them lowered his weapon, his voice shaking. "Commander, this is not weakness, this is change, and change cannot be stopped by law alone." The leader roared in fury, striking his blade against the ground, sparks leaping into the air. "We are not here to question. We are here to obey. The human will come with us, dead or alive." The tension snapped like glass. The soldier stepped forward. The girl clutched the human's arm, her voice shaking but strong. "Run if you must, fight if you can, but do not let them take your heart, the heart that gave me light." The human's mind raced. He had no weapons, no army, only his hands, his knowledge and his will. But sometimes will alone was sharper than steel. He spoke loudly so even the soldiers could hear. You call me criminal, but history will call me builder. You call her weakness, but tomorrow she will be a voice that will echo through your halls. And when mercy rises, your laws will fall. The soldiers froze again, the doubt inside them growing heavier, their eyes flicking between their leader and the glowing child before them. The leader's hand trembled on his blade, but his pride forced him forward. Then I will silence you myself. He raised his weapon high, the air burning with its energy. The girl screamed and reached out, not with her hands, but with her voice, her spirit. You may strike him, but you will never silence what he gave me, because I will carry it until my last breath. Her words rang across the ruins like thunder, and for the first time the soldiers did not move. Their blades hovered but did not fall. Doubt chained their arms, fear of truth heavier than fear of their commander. The leader stood alone, his fury battling against the silence of his own men. The human stared into his masked face, his voice calm. Do it then. Strike me, and prove to your own soldiers that your law fears a child with sight. The leader's hand shook, his blade still high, but his soldiers' eyes burned with hesitation, their silence louder than his orders. The ruins held its breath. The girl clutched her visor, her heart pounding, and in that fragile moment the confrontation became more than weapons. It became a battle of belief, mercy against law, kindness against fear, one voice against an empire. The ruins stood silent, broken walls casting long shadows. The human felt the air grow heavier as the four soldiers closed in, their boots striking the stone with unshaken rhythm, their masks cold, their weapons glowing. The alien girl clutched his arm, her visor humming faintly, her breath unsteady but her spirit firm. The leader raised his blade, its edge glowing green, his voice like iron. Human, you have crossed the line. You touched what is forbidden. You built what should not exist, and for that, you will be taken. The human did not flinch. His tired eyes stared back at the commander. I gave her sight, nothing more, if you call that a crime. Then your law is blind. The girl stepped forward, her small frame trembling but her voice strong. He saved me when even my own people left me to die. If mercy is a crime, then I will be guilty too. The soldiers shifted uneasily, their armor scraping. Two kept their blades ready, but one hesitated, his weapon lowering a fraction. His voice cracked through the silence. Commander, look at her. She stands because of him. Is that weakness? Or is it strength? The leader's mask turned sharply, his voice a growl. Strength comes from pain, not from gifts. Do not forget who you serve. The human's voice cut through like steel, steady and calm. No, strength comes from hope. Strength comes from lifting someone when they have fallen. If that scares you, then perhaps you are weaker than the laws you hide behind. The words burned deeper than any blade. The soldiers froze, torn between duty and doubt. The girl's visor glowed brighter, painting the ruins in lines of light, her face alive with fire she never had before. And in that moment she no longer seemed like a weak child. She looked like a spark ready to ignite something far greater. The commander raised his weapon higher, his anger spilling out. Enough. This ends now, the girl cried out, stepping in front of the human, her arms wide though she had no shield. Then strike me too, because without him I would still crawl in darkness. Without him I would still be nothing, but with him I am alive, and I will not step aside. Her words echoed across the broken walls. Even the wind seemed to pause. The soldiers hesitated again. One whispered, Commander, she is not afraid. How can blindness be weakness if she shines brighter than us? The leader roared, striking his blade into the stone floor, sparks bursting upward. You will obey. You will remember the old law. Weakness must not live. But the law trembled in his hands, for his own soldiers no longer looked certain. The human saw it in their stances, in the way their blades shook, in the silence that pressed heavier than orders. He took a step forward, placing himself beside the girl, his voice loud and unshaken. You call this law, I call it fear. You fear what I made. Because it proves mercy can change everything, and mercy cannot be chained. The commander pointed his blade directly at the human's chest. One more word and it will be your last. The human's voice did not falter. Then hear my last word. Hope, the hope she carries. The hope your law cannot kill. The girl lifted her face, her visor glowing brighter still, light tracing the soldiers' armor, painting them not as warriors but as men caught between belief and obedience. Her voice trembled but carried strength. I was blind and you left me, but he gave me sight, and with sight I see truth. And the truth is this: mercy is not weakness. Mercy is strength. Her voice cracked the silence. The soldiers stepped back, their weapons lowering slightly. Doubt burned inside them stronger than the commander's rage. One dropped his blade completely, the sound ringing across the ruins like a bell. The commander turned on him in fury. Coward, you disgrace your armor. But the soldier met his gaze, voice trembling but firm. No, Commander. I see clearer now than ever before. She is not weakness, she is proof. And you fear her more than any enemy. The human stood tall, his hand on the girl's shoulder, his heart pounding but his face calm. Strike me if you dare, but remember this moment. Remember that even your own soldiers doubted you when they saw what mercy could do. The commander raised his weapon again, but his hand shook, rage burning but no strike falling. The air was heavy, the ruin still, every breath filled with waiting, and in that fragile silence the confrontation was no longer just man against soldiers. It was idea against law, hope against fear, and the world itself seemed to hold its breath. The ruins stood heavy with silence. The commander's blade hovered in the air, his soldiers frozen in doubt. The girl's visor glowed with lines of light, her small frame trembling but her voice still strong. The human felt the weight of every second pressing on them. He knew this moment could break or burn everything. The commander's mask tilted toward his men, his voice sharp as steel. You are sworn to obey, not to question. Do not forget who you serve. But one soldier, the one who had lowered his weapon, shook his head slowly, his voice unsteady yet firm. I swore to protect my people, not to abandon them. If this girl can stand, if she can see, then perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps weakness is not death. Perhaps weakness can become strength. The girl's breath caught, her glowing eyes wide behind the visor. No one had ever spoken such words for her kind, not from her people, not from her leaders, and yet this soldier dared to say it in front of his commander. The human stepped forward, his hand steady though his heart raced. You see the truth now, you cannot chain it again. Her sight proves more than my visor, it proves that mercy builds strength where cruelty only breaks. The commander roared, his voice echoing through the broken towers. Lies, all of it. Weakness cannot be healed. Weakness is a disease, and this human spreads it like poison. He raised his blade high, sparks glowing on its edge, ready to strike. But the girl stepped between him and the human, her arms wide, her voice like thunder, though her body shook. Then strike me, Commander, strike the one you call weak, and prove to your own men that you fear a blind child with hope. The soldiers hesitated, their boots scraping against stone. None moved forward, none lifted their blades. The commander's hand trembled, though fury burned in his mask. The silence was louder than orders, and it crushed him. At last one soldier spoke again, his tone sharp. Commander, if weakness is to be destroyed, then why do you fear her voice? Why do you fear his mercy? If your law is truth, why does it tremble before them? The words cracked the air, truth spilling into the open like light through shattered glass. The commander faltered, his rage shaking, his mask reflecting the girl's glowing visor as if the light itself mocked him. The human's voice rose, calm yet fierce. Your law is not strength, it is fear dressed in steel. It teaches you to abandon, but I tell you this. Strength is not in turning away. Strength is in lifting those who fall. Strength is in choosing mercy when cruelty is easier, and deep down you all know it. The girl turned to the soldiers, her voice softer now, almost pleading. All my life I was told I was nothing, that I should hide, that I should die unseen. But he gave me sight, and with it he gave me choice. And I choose to live, I choose to stand, and I ask you, will you stand with me? Or will you keep pretending that cruelty is strength? The ruins shivered with her words, the silence that followed was heavy. But inside it something shifted. The soldiers' hands trembled, their weapons lowered little by little, their breaths sharp with conflict, their eyes burning with questions they never allowed before. One finally dropped his blade completely. The sound of metal striking stone echoed like a drum. I will not kill a man for giving hope. Another followed, his weapon falling beside the first. His voice steady, nor will I, the commander spun, fury blazing. Traitors all of you, have you forgotten the old law? The blood that built our throne. But his words sounded thin now, weaker than before. His soldiers no longer obeyed without thought. Their silence weighed heavier than his orders, and the human saw it clearly. The commander was losing not just control but belief itself. The girl stepped closer, her visor glowing so bright it painted her like a star in the dust. The old law left me in darkness. The old law left me to die, but I did not die, because one human refused to look away. If that frightens you, Commander, then perhaps you are the weak one. The commander's blade shook in his hands. His voice cracked with rage. Silence, you are nothing. The human's voice cut in, sharp and steady. She is not nothing. She is everything your law could never imagine. She is proof that mercy creates strength, proof that kindness cannot be erased, and if you strike her down, you will prove only your fear. The soldiers' eyes turned to their leader, waiting, watching, their breaths heavy, the tension a storm ready to break. The commander stood alone, his law crumbling in the silence of his own men, his blade still raised but powerless, for truth weighed heavier than steel in that fragile moment. The truth was revealed, not through machines, not through battle, but through a blind girl who chose to stand, through a soldier who dared to doubt, through a human who refused to let cruelty rule. The truth was simple and unstoppable. Mercy was strength, and no law could bury it again. The ruins stood in stillness. The commander's blade shook in his grip, his soldiers silent and unmoving. The girl's visor glowed like a star against the dust, her breath steady, her spirit unbroken. The human stood at her side, his face tired but unbending, and in that moment the old law trembled like glass ready to shatter. The commander's voice cracked with fury. You think this changes anything? You think one girl, one human, can undo the order of centuries? The human answered, calm but sharp. No, not undo, but begin. Change begins with one act, one choice, one spark. And mercy is always stronger than fear, no matter how long fear has ruled. The girl stepped forward, her arms wide though she was smaller than the soldiers before her, her visor shining so bright the lines of the ruins danced in her vision. You left me to die, you said weakness was a curse. But now I stand, I see, I speak, and I will not go back to silence. Her words pierced deeper than any blade. The soldiers lowered their heads. Unable to meet her glowing eyes, even the wind seemed to pause, carrying her voice beyond the broken walls. The commander roared again, desperate. You will not defy me. The law is eternal, but one soldier spoke softly, his voice clear. No law is eternal. Only truth lasts, and today truth stands with them. The commander's mask tilted sharply, his blade trembling, his rage boiling, but he saw the faces of his men. He saw their silence, their doubt, their rebellion, and he knew the old law was slipping through his hands. He could kill the human, he could shatter the visor, but he could not kill what had already been revealed. The human took a step closer, unarmed yet unafraid. Strike me if you wish. But when history speaks of this day, it will not remember your law. It will remember that one blind child saw. It will remember that mercy rose where cruelty failed. The girl raised her face, her voice steady though her heart raced. And it will remember that humanity gave me light, not to control me, not to use me, but to let me live, and that is the mark of their strength. The soldiers looked at each other, their silence now heavy with choice. One after another they lowered their blades fully. The sound of steel against stone echoed across the ruins. They had chosen not law, not commander, but truth, and their commander stood alone. He roared with fury, but even his voice sounded hollow. You betray everything we are. The soldier who first doubted stepped forward, his mask glinting. No, commander. We honor what we should have been. We were blind, but now we see. The girl's visor glowed brighter, her breath deep, her spirit alive. She whispered softly, yet strong enough for all to hear. Once I was nothing, now I am voice. Once I was left behind, now I walk forward. And I will never walk in darkness again. The commander staggered back a step, his blade lowering, his pride broken, his law crumbling. He turned sharply, his voice filled with rage and fear. This is not the end. This is only the beginning of chaos, and you, human, will be hunted for what you have done. He signaled to his ship, and with a roar of engines the air trembled. The commander retreated, leaving his soldiers behind, their loyalty no longer his to command. The ruins shook with the sound of departure, and then the silence returned, heavier than before but filled now with something new. Hope. The human exhaled slowly, his shoulders lowering at last. The girl turned to him, her glowing eyes shining with tears. You gave me sight, but you also gave me more. You gave me a choice, you gave me a future. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his voice quiet. No, You gave yourself a future. I only built the tool. You chose to stand. The soldiers who remained knelt slightly. Not in worship, but in respect, one spoke, his voice steady. We came to take you, but now we will guard you. For what you carry is greater than any weapon. The human shook his head. You do not need to guard me. Guard her. Guard the truth she now carries, for it will spread, whether we wish it or not. The girl looked up at the sky, the stars faint above the ruins. Her visor tracing their glow, she whispered softly, I wonder how many still walk in darkness. I wonder how many wait for someone to give them light. The human followed her gaze, his heart heavy but strong. Many, too many. But today we proved that one act of mercy can defy an empire, and that is how change begins. The wind carried their words across the ruins, past the broken towers, past the silent stones and into the stars, where whispers already moved faster than ships, faster than laws. Whispers of a human who gave sight to the blind, whispers of mercy that broke the chains of cruelty, whispers that would not be silenced. And though he knew more battles would come, though he knew soldiers and commanders and entire empires would try to crush what he had started, the human smiled faintly, for he also knew this. Mercy had left its mark, not just on one girl, but on a people, on a galaxy, and that mark would never fade.